Hey, everybody, Derek Maxon, and I just wanted to welcome everyone to the webinar to view the results of the 2025 Gold Country or Gold County, as my slide says here. It's good to find a typo on your first slide, don't you think? So anyway, let me just jump in and tell you a little bit about what we did. So I have a list of churches all up and down the Highway 49 corridor, not quite to the northern end, but all the way to Grass Valley. There's about 140 churches in our region, and about 15% of those churches responded, which gives us a lot of great information about what we're seeing out there. So, all right. So I'm just going to share some of the things that are on the hearts of pastors here, and you can just look at those on your screen while I highlight a couple of them, and just see the kind of things then that these are the things that are on the hearts of pastors about stuff that's going great in the church, about stuff they're excited about the Lord is doing. And so on here, you'll see everything from sermon series that people are doing and emphasis and things. There's one of the things that was really great is how many different people, how many pastors who replied about evangelism and service in the community. It's such a passion of what the church is, to be focused on people far from God. And so I love to see that. We're going to see that a little bit throughout this. Here's some of the things then that are a little bit harder, that are also on the hearts of pastors here in the Motherlode region. Just being busy, all the demands, those things are tough. Heard from a couple pastors that are dealing with hiring things, of everything from knowing a position that they want to hire and not find candidates, to trying to define what the next position is that their church needs, because it's such an important thing to move from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 full-time staff people, and that making those decisions about what the job description and the gift mix that a church is looking for is so critical. So loved hearing about some of those things as well. And there's concern just about finance in the church and such. So yeah, those are good. And anyway, and I really appreciate everybody sharing these things, because I've been praying for you along the way since you've turned in those survey results. All right. I also asked kind of what's kind of the, your excitement level to discouragement level on there. And so here's some of the results of that. So the bigger words on here are the more common answers. And so it was great to see excited and encouraged being such a key thing for pastors right now. And a couple of years ago, Barna, the big church research group, did a big survey, and 42% of the pastors that they surveyed said they were considering leaving their jobs as pastors. And this has been an oft quoted statistic over the last couple of years about this. And it was actually one of the answers that I offered that people could check. And it was so great to have none of the pastors say that. And anyway, we hope and pray that not only the people who responded, but all the pastors in our community just feel encouragement from their own local body and from people that support them. All right, so here's some areas where God is working, and God's working and again, the biggest word are the things that is the most common answer. And there were a number of churches that said growing numbers, new people, new believers. And then also a couple of big things was ministry to families and serving in the community. And again, these are great things to see in the church. And so that was really excited. Here's some areas for growth in the church. And churches were saying that we want to see more in evangelism and more in disciple making and serving. And it's interesting how serving and families came up on both these lists, huh? That serving and family are some of the most common answers on both the lists. And I think that just makes sense, that we want our families to be strong. We know that it's so hard to be parents today. It's so hard to be kids today. And how great it is that these are areas that pastors are seeing God move in, and at the same time are seeing more need in. So we'll keep praying for all of those things. And yeah, chances are that other pastors that you're connecting with or people in your own town are doing the same thing there. All right, I want to hit some trends too. And so 60% of all the churches that filled out the survey reported higher attendance over the last year or two. And the average increase of the churches that are reporting higher attendance is 19%. And there wasn't a big difference in there. The highest percentage increase for any church in the survey was right about 25. And so it just created then this band of the 60% where they're increasing about 10 to 25% year over year. And then 40% of churches are experiencing a 5 to 15% decrease right now. And so it just gives us an idea about where they are. Now, we think with a 19% increase, of course, that giving might follow along with that. But as we know, giving is a trailing indicator of engagement, and engagement is a trailing indicator of attendance. And so we can expect, as we expect to see with attendance increase, it's going to take a while for people to really feel integrated into the church, being involved in serving and in groups, and then perhaps then to begin giving. So, and then the hard thing about a 3% annual increase is that the inflation over the last 2 years has been 3% each year. And so that's why I say the giving is flat over the last 2 years, because even though our churches are seeing 3% growth, expenses are stealing, inflation is stealing that away from our expenses. And so along with that, I asked the question, how much is giving a concern for you? And I kind of gave that 5-point scale where 1 is low and 5 is high. Fortunately, no one said 5, but 45% of churches said that it's at least an area of concern this year. And related to that, but different churches in some cases reported that expenses are increasing faster than giving. All right. So, and one more stat on this is that, and this was really astonishing to me, is that 83% of the churches responding reported that their budget is the same this year as last year, or it's lower than last year. And so there's really a lot of stress on this. And anyway, so I asked my friend Zach Britton, some of you may know him, who really follows economics, and I asked him what's a factor in this. And so when we talked about that, he referred to the fact that inflation is outpacing this thing called GDP growth. And so GDP is like anyway, forgive me for doing this, but is the growth of our economy as a country. And so to have that number be lower than inflation is going to be what continues to produce that tension on how much inflation is eating away at real spendable dollars. All right, here's a cool stat I just wanted to share with you, is that 3 numbers here. I'm going to start with the one on the left. So the actual weekly giving regionally, so within the motherlode area with the churches that I've surveyed on this, the actual weekly giving per adult per week is $57. So if you were to take 100 people in the church times 52 weeks times $57, then that would give you the number. So let's do that math real quick. 100 people times 52 weeks times $57 is a church budget of approximately $295,000. And so that's the average of what we see up and down the motherlode with churches there. Based on taking the per capita income of the region, though, the potential number we like to talk about at Malphur's group is $67. So this would be that if your church was full of people who were tithing 10% of their per capita income, it would be $67 per week per adult in attendance. Now you might ask the question, but not everybody comes every week. Yeah, but we actually do this math based on 52 weeks, not based on actual attendance. And then interestingly, it's $48 nationally. And so that just kind of gives us an idea about how it is that the standard of living, the cost of living in California doesn't just affect us on the expense side, it actually produces higher giving. Sometimes we might think, oh, well, giving's probably really high in the Southeast, but nationally, this is the number that we see. So it's really great to just see, however, how God is moving. And I just love this image. I love the concept. God is on the move. And one of the great things just in hearing from all different pastors along the way, the comments that people offered, and which we shared a lot of them at the beginning, is that it's just the belief that God is working among us. And that's really great. Hey, here's a couple quick things for those of you who are new to some of the work that I do. One of the things is we offer free cohorts for pastors. And these are opportunities for connection, growth, and support. It's 1 hour a couple times a month over Zoom, so no matter where you are, and we'd love to have you involved in that. And also, you may want to dig a little bit deeper into your church. And so I offer a tool called the Church Ministry Analysis Report. And this is where kind of your core in your church, your leadership and core community would respond to a survey that helps us to understand more about the key metrics in your church. There's 6 dimensions and about 40 specific indicators that help us to understand how we're aligning with the Great Commission and the outcomes we want in the church. So that's some stuff. All right. Now, I've kind of gotten to the end of the content on that, but there's a few people who were able to get on here during the actual time of the webinar. And I just wanted to offer to any of you, if you had any questions,